Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most overpowered axe build in Nioh 3. This is crazy because we can literally just spin to win here, and we have so much damage buffs that if we do get attacked, we can basically just tank our way through it. And we also can sustain ourselves with some extra Lifeseal, and this build is actually pretty easy to set up at the very start of the game. And you see here, we literally just keep spamming the same skills here, and we can also switch to our ninja form and have lots of great abilities there. Another amazing thing is we can stack statuses really easily. We have the Titanic Strength Water and the Bear's Bane Fire, which can easily apply confusion on the enemy. And then we have things like Mad Spinner, although the big one is the Tornado's Edge here, which is extremely powerful, and we can chain this together while also using the Victory Rush here. This will perform a key pulse while stepping for the enemy and ramming them with our weapon, and we can basically just combo these two skills together endlessly. And that ends up looking like this. So you're going to open up with that, and then you can follow up with another attack, and then you're just going to continue keep spinning towards them until the enemy is dead, or you run out of ki, then you back off. You got ninja form to use a bunch of different abilities here. Another thing is we also have one of the best engagement tools in the game, so we can dash towards someone and then do that charge attack there and combo that into some other stuff. So if we're going against multiple mobs, you can do some pretty insane damage. So to start off, our stats are going to be important. Now, if you're at the start of the game, this is going to be very different depending on where you're at, but at the end game, this is likely where you want to be. This gives us enough constitution to tank a bunch of hits. You can take points at a constitution. This is the least required stat because of all the different items that we have and just ensuring that we won't get hit. We also got a good amount of heart here. This affects our ki and ki recovery speed, which I would say is one of the most important ones here alongside our strength for the damage. And we only need an amount of stamina equal to the equipment that we want to use. You see here, I have 69.9% encumbrance rate here. You want to have that below 70. Now, I really like skill builds, but I don't think it fits as well here, but the skill will put up your Tonfa points if you switch over to Ninja, which is still really nice. We're going with 20 intelligence here just for the ki recovery speed and so we can equip some other items later on in the game. And I like to have about 20 magic. You can scale this up even higher and take points from your constitution so you're able to prepare more spells. Which takes us to the Onmyo Box here. Now, new Pepo here is actually really good because this is going to give us more sustain. So this gives us life 100, which is nice, but it's the Amrita absorption. That's why we want to roll with 2 of these here. This is going to make it so that when we keep attacking, we get our health back. So if we're trading blows with the enemy, we basically just don't die. And with this particular setup, we have a 34 value here. And since our axe spins around and hits multiple times, this is actually really good. Now, depending on what you also want to do, the Anendra Soul Core is great if you want to add fire damage and if you're going against bosses that are weak to it. Likewise, the Raiju will be the same thing for lightning, and this will boost up our lightning damage as well. So I like to use these two as well, depending on the boss that we're going against. Obviously, there's other things like the Kamataichi here, which can actually be pretty useful, although I prefer having it in the other position, the Yin position. Jakotsu Baba can also be a really nice one in the Yang position. And for Yin positions, another new Pepo is actually kind of nice. This will restore our life over time, but a better one is to go with the Pleiades Talisman here, which will give us our Amrita gauge filling up a little bit quicker. This can be good just for, again, surviving and being able to go into these Guardian Spirit forms, which I'm going to show you a bit later. Daidarabachi, this one is probably one of the best. Sloth Talisman, if you've used it before, you know how good it is. Slows the enemy down, which is extremely effective at allowing us to get our axe hits in. We're not the fastest build in the game, so it's nice to be able to slow the enemy down to our pace, and just it makes it easy from the start of the game all the way through to the end. I also like the Otoroshi Soul Core here. This is one of the bosses required to fight, but it allows you to dispel yokai realms just by touching them. These sap our ki really quickly, so this is a nice one just to help out with just not having to focus too much on removing them, but we also have a skill that can remove them by evading if we go into our ninja form. I also like to have the Kamataichi one. Wind Familiars is just really nice. You could go with the Raiju or Anendra. These will give you the fire and lightning familiars for depending on, again, what boss you're going against. But ki is draining their ki with wind is one of the best options, and this is something you can use even on your ninja builds as well. I also want to mention Yasha. If you can find one with a geyser shot, this is good for applying water, which will give us 20% more damage. Another one I'll mention is the Lifeseal Talisman. This will actually make it so that we can, if there's a humanoid boss, use this. It's going to make the boss really cheesy because it reduces their ability to recover keys, so we can just spin to win and it just deletes them. It's actually kind of silly. It almost feels unfair. I also want to mention the Sadama in the Yin position. The Thunderstorm shot lets you hit an enemy 2 or even 4 times with lightning. This will slow them down, and it's really good. I guess I should also quickly mention Jakotsu Baba for the water familiar. But yeah, I'm also going with Lifeseal, Sloth, Barrier, and Wind Familiar can be some of the best, and then throwing in the Sudama for the lightning attack. Now, there are a lot of skills that work really well. I'm just going to go through some of my favorites here that I think complement the build really nicely. Vigorous Spear just gives us some extra life sustain. This is the first one I would cut if you don't want to use something. I also like the Volitional Summoning here, lets you use Guardian Spirits while you're moving. This just prevents us from getting hit, and it's in a time where we don't want to get hit. Spirit Ascension charges the Amrita gauge when you're hit an enemy with a Guardian Spirit skill. So we want to be constantly spamming ours, and we actually have one that I'm going to show off that makes it so that we have a ranged attack, so we don't have to focus on like actually aiming with it. I'm also using the ki sapping follow-up, increasing the damage dealt by melee attacks against enemies that have run out of ki and are in a winded state. We're going to be doing this often. This is a nice one to have equipped. Flexibility increases the follow-up damage to yourself when you're using a style shift, and we're going to be shifting often. And Tourbillon here, when switching to samurai style, applies enhanced art proficiency to yourself. When switching to ninja form, it reduces the ki consumption. So this is nice because, again, going into our ninja form is to get away, recover our ki, and then use our ninja tools, get back in for our samurai form. And I think one of the most important ones is awakening. This lets us use your Onmyo magic quicker. This is actually extremely useful on everyone. Now for our samurai skills, running water is really nice with a low cost of 2, allows you to do a ki pulse by dodging. It's just a nice option to have if you don't like stand switching using the flux ability. We also have things like unshakable, which reduces the damage taken when we're attacking by 10%. Since we're going to be attacking often and we want to be tanking those hits, this is almost an essential one to have on this here. Now double-edged arts boost our damage quite a bit, so increase the damage dealt by strong attacks and martial attacks by 20% when our arts proficiency is active, but we take 30% more damage. This is a nice one though because the damage boost is very considerable and we're going to be trading hits and likely doing more attacks on the enemy, so you can swap this one off if you find you're getting wrecked by it. Destructive arts, however, increases 10% the amount of elemental damage and status ailment buildup dealt by strong attacks and martial arts while arts proficiency is active. We're going to have that active often, which is crazy because then our damage potential goes through the roof, and I'm going to show you that in examples. We also have oppressive strength here. This is one of the most impactful and important that we do need to have. Prevents you from being staggered during strong attacks and martial arts while arts proficiency is active. So all these combined together means we're dealing more damage, and we're not staggering. So that is really nice. I just want to note quickly that if you run out of ki, this won't really protect you. You'll get knocked down. And favorable wind increases melee damage dealt to enemies with status ailments. We're applying statuses with this build, so yeah, use it. We also got on the ninja side, the armor piercer, which will give us increased damage in grapples and final blows. The battle frenzy kata, which is kind of nice because we can swap to ninja form and get this ability whenever we grapple an enemy, and this is going to make them so that they have less defense, so they take more damage. Evasion expert is really nice, extends the window of opportunity for a successful evade. Since we're dodging in this form, we want to have that. And we also want to have the counteroffensive evade here, which will increase the damage we deal after we evade, perfectly like that. And since we're going to want to try and evade, evil dispelling evade, which will clear the yokai realms. Very convenient if we don't want to use the talisman I mentioned earlier. And I also like to have in this form the dragon ones down the bottom if you can afford them. Illusionary and wrathful dragon are nice. This will increase the damage elemental after applying hits with ninjutsu or elements. And for our guardian spirit, now when we're in our samurai form, I like to have Kongo Jishi here. This one is nice because it's going to give us more wind damage on our familiars. It gives us more life, and it reduces the damage we take while attacking by 10% here at level 26. This is really good. It also gives us a bit of extra wind damage, which is nice for just ripping down ki. I also like Kusanagi. It increases our martial arts damage, but it's the ki pulse recovery plus 15%. That's really nice. And also increase our proficiency, arts proficiency damage, and spirit force charge, which is nice. I also really like the Heaven's Fire ability. So these two are my preferences for in samurai form. And in ninja form, Shami Choro is amazing because with this one, it has a ranged attack here and it boosts up our lightning damage, faster movement after evade. It's just a good one for the ninja. Now for our moveset with the axe. Now what we're going to want to have is on our high stance, we're typically not going into high stance often, but I like to have the rampage skill there. It's just a little bit of something different. Gives us some mobility if we exit up in that stance. Tornado's Edge. This is a big one. It's a crucible skill. We want to go and get this one. It does a huge amount of damage. Only downside, this is a random drop, so it's hard to find, but it's worth getting. If you don't have it at the current moment, Mad Spinner is like a little bit of a worse version. You can spin around longer. It feels better sometimes against enemies, but Tornado's Edge is just the best. And I typically actually like to have Tornado's Edge on both, but sometimes it's nice to try Mad Spinner out. Just personal preferences there. Now, one thing that's important, I like to have the high kick here as our follow-up attack, but Titanic Strength Water will let us do water damage on the enemy. And then I also like when I'm in low stance to use the Bear's Bane, which will give you fire stance damage. You can swap these around, and we're typically going to be staying in mid stance most of the time. But the two most, as mentioned at the start, is the Tornado's Edge. This is what we're going to start off combat with and proceed into the Victory Rush here. This is kind of like the combo. You just do them back and forth, spin to win, delete them. And you can also have that in our low form as well, but I like to have these swapped just so that we do have two different elements that we can apply. Now for our equipment, this is one of the hardest parts in Nioh, is you got to grind and farm a lot of gear. Grace of Inari, if you get 7 points to that, it's going to be the highest damage that we could get on a build like this, and boosting up our elemental damage by 28%. It's kind of insane. However, it's really hard to find that kind of gear, and it's likely going to be into New Game Plus where you get it. So things like the Herald of Peace can be nice. This one gives us a defense bonus when we hit 4 pieces. It also increases the glory that we get. It's a decent set that has lightweight, and that's kind of the big thing about it. And it also gives you a bonus to your ninja. So if you like swapping between forms, that can be a good one. We also got the Retreat Master, which will give you less key consumption for your dodges, faster movement when you're ailing, and life drain whenever you get martial arts on the enemy. If you like to raise up your stamina, the Kintaro set here is really nice, although it makes it it's a really heavy set. It gives you an attack bonus based off your strength. So if you want to go full in on damage, this would be the set to use. Just be mindful you will need more points from your other stats into your strength and into your stamina to equip this without having the slow agility. The thing is, this is really powerful. This also will give you life drain on your melee attacks. So yeah, if you can afford it and if you got like 250 points, use this set. I also do want to quickly mention the Brave Demon Hunters. This is a 7 set piece, so it is a little bit unfortunate. It doesn't really work out on here, but if you get higher stacks, you can get martial arts key consumption minus 15%. At 7 stacks, it gives a strength bonus, but yeah, it's a better strength bonus than the last set, but you do have to equip weapons that are not axes. So all in all, if you can find the Grace of Inari, that's going to be the absolute best set that can randomly drop. I also want to mention the Lilac set. With the Lilac set, it basically makes it so you can extend confusion, which increases the amount of damage the enemy takes every time you hit it with a melee attack, so you're constantly reapplying confusion. One thing to note though is that bosses will remove it when they go into yokai realm, so that's something to keep in mind. I'm using half of the Herald of Peace set here on this current setup. I found this worked really well with a few Grace of the Inari here, and then I have Kintaro's Axe. I do want to mention again, Kintaro's set is probably the best here if you just want something simple and you can craft it without farming too much. And then if you get things that gives you like faster movement on a Rita absorption or any that's going to increase your movement speed when your key is below 50%, these two works really well. And depending on the boss you're going against, two things like the pipes here can give you 80% fire resistance. And yeah, you can match this against the boss. Certain ones will just deal full elemental damage. And then for the ninja, I like the Head of Iga Ninja. You can also use the Flying Kato set for the Master of Illusion here if you put another point into your intelligence. I should say skill, but even if you don't want the investment, the Yiga Jonin Cuirass is really solid. And for our ninja tools, the Tempestuous Calamity here is nice, although you could switch it out for the Thunderous Calamity. And we definitely want to have Glacial Calamity. This is a really good one at close range. It'll basically apply the water status. Same with Infernal Calamity. It puts fire on the ground. These are really nice skills because you can just use this here. It only has the 2 costs, so you can swap to your ninja form, apply this. It does a crazy amount of damage over time. And you can see here with like the Glacial Calamity there and even the Lightning one, you do insane amounts of damage, and these will apply your statuses really quickly so that you're able to not only focus on doing your axe attacks, but it's just going to drain enemies really quickly. I really like the Infernal Calamity here because it does fire damage over time, and then you have that Lightning one which can chain bolt to multiple enemies. Now for our clans, the Toyotomi here is really nice. This will give you life recovery, Amrita absorption, and Amrita earned. This is nice again for sustain. Kato here is also really nice because this will reduce the damage taken while attacking by 12%, and that's quite a considerable number because we're going to be attacking often. And I do want to mention Toto, which will give you a life bonus based on your stamina. This does seem like it is bugged, but it is extremely powerful, and it also increases your ninja gauge charge. So if you're having a hard time with a boss, pop this on. It's going to literally double your health, and it makes it a lot easier. But I do think if it probably will get nerfed at some point. So Kato and Toyotomi are the best. So combat will pretty much look like this, just spinning to winning here, and then you can dodge to get your key points back. And also, I fat fingered that. It is insanely powerful though. Yeah, you want to get, yeah, we basically just want to start off with this axe spinning attack, follow it up with our charge there, the right bumper. So yeah, you're just going to be pressing and holding Y for a lot of the time, and then pressing your top right bumper to follow that up. It is actually insane the damage that you can do with this, and with things like the wind familiars here, you can then follow up with a charge attack and do some crazy damage, just absolutely deleting anything that stands in your way. Now, the best part about this is good from the start of the game all the way through to the end, and you have so many different ways to be able to counter against different enemies. If you're getting overwhelmed, you can always switch to your ninja form here, and then blast away with your different calamity style skills that are going to leave the surfaces on the ground, and then you can go back into your axe form. So I'd actually really encourage you to swap around and try to use multiple different stances here often, because you see that we're getting crazy life sustain, so even when we do end up getting hit, we do recover our health extremely quickly. So the gameplay is actually just a lot of just spinning around and then following up with that attack there once you break down their key. So yeah, this is what I think to be the most overpowered axe build in Nioh 3. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Hit the subscribe button if this video is useful, and I hope you guys all have an incredible day.